A huge inconsequence was her actions law.
Right, right.
Okay, very good. So I'll begin with that. Now I have to come in here and have to go much larger. Okay. A huge inconsequence was her actions law. An inconsequence is something that is without worth, something that is trivial. And now we see as if all possibility must be drained, and anguish and bliss were pastimes of the heart. Well, this is a dark passage because, but Sri Aurobindo, remember, uses the words very often as if. So he doesn't say that the possibility must be drained. He says as if all possibility must be drained. And anguish and bliss were pastimes of the heart. So nothing solid, nothing at all formed. And we've talked about that in previous weeks. In a gallop of thunder-hooved vicissitudes. Whoa, vicissitudes are, I would say, changes or variations occurring in the course of something. And then we have this very unique line. She swept through the race fields of circumstance. And I have here two quotes, especially the most important one I feel is by Jumur. And by the way, Jumur has just agreed to be videotaped for her Savitri sessions. We did the first one last night. So here's what she said, and it will be on our website, of course. Jumur, the field of expression, of manifestation, is time and space, the forefront of our existence. And life moves through the field of time and space. Perhaps circumstance is when we are unconscious and don't know where we are moving. We call it circumstance, unconscious life. If we were conscious, we wouldn't call it circumstance. Time, place, and circumstance define the proper outline of the subject. We are surrounded by certain conditioning factors which dictate their will. We are slaves of circumstance and have no freedom until we become masters. Alok writes to me, she here refers to the force and energy of life, the many-hued events of life that are woven by the complex play of forces were, for the power of life, a game, much like a hurdle race to be crossed over. So now we continue with the lines. Or, swaying, she tossed between her heights and deeps, uplifted or broken on time's inconstant wheel. Well, this inconstant wheel of time is a changing or a varying wheel. And sometimes it's without even, I would say, a discernible pattern or a reason. So this is life tossing between her heights and deeps, uplifted or even broken on this inconstant wheel of time. Well, now we have the next line, very, very strong line. Amid a tedious crawl of drab desires. Well, tedious we know is tiresome. by the reason of length. It can be slowness, or it can be dullness, it can be monotonous. A tedious crawl of drab. Drab is usually understood, at least I have, as a dull gray, a cheerless, something lacking in brightness or spirit. She writhed, a worm mid worms in nature's mud. Now, writhe is thrashing about, squirming. And she's squirming in nature's mud. And we've gone through nature so many times, I think. But then we have, then tightened statured, took all earth for food. Powerful line. We are seeing this attempt being made in the world today to make the world a place of slaves, even to reduce population growth. So let me continue. We will start with this line. Then Titan statured took all earth for food. Well, we know what the Titans are. Sri Aurobindo speaks of them at great length. And he says, unless the Titan can feel sure of his empire, unless he can feel something writhing, helpless under his heel, if in agony, so much the better. What is exploitation to him, unless it diminishes the exploited? To be able to coerce, exact, slay, overtly, irresistibly, it is this that fills him with a sense of glory and dominion. Ambitioned the seas for robe, for crown, the stars. Well, when we ambition something, we desire it, and we desire it earnestly. And shouting, strode from peak to giant peak, clamoring for worlds to conquer and to rule. Well, I think we all know clamoring, making a loud and continuous noise or outcry. Then wantonly enamored of sorrow's face. Wow. Wantonly, here we should go into this with a little depth. Wantonly is recklessly, undisciplined. Enamored, of course, is inflamed with love or even captivated. And then we have sorrow. Sorrow, of course, we have in Sri Aurobindo's letters to Narad. He calls him the man of sorrows. And of course, Christ was also known as the man of sorrows. So this sorrow, this mental suffering or pain that's caused by loss or despair, wantonly enamored of sorrow's face, she plunged into the anguish of the depths and wallowing clung to her own misery. Well, wallowing is rolling about, usually in water or snow or mud, for pleasure. But I wonder how many of us, and I'll admit it myself, cling to our own, have clung to our own misery. The misery of the loss of loved ones, the misery of illness, the misery of the loss of friends, or the excruciating hatred from others. So, Vladimir, want to say something at this point?
On the misery.
Yeah, right.
Well, I believe the misery also has a delight in it of some kind. As Sri Aurobindo says, the delight dared to step on forbidden soil, and
Yes,
our vital somehow enjoys the misery. But I'm
yes.
so
And that's why he writes wallowing. It's
right.
taking pleasure in her own misery.
Yeah, yeah. There
Very,
is
very, very, yes. So now we have another line that has quite a few things to speak about. In dolorous converse with her squandered self, she wrote the account of all that she had lost, or sat with grief as with an ancient friend. So dolorous, of course, is mournful. Converse is conversation. In dolorous converse with what? With her squandered self. This is a dissipated self. She wrote the account of all that she had lost, or sat with grief as, where is it? I lost it. Yeah, or sat with grief as with an ancient friend. A romp of violent raptures soon was spent. A violent rapture soon was spent. But it's a romp. It's a lively or boisterous frolic. And so she goes through these violent raptures, but they're very quickly spent. Or she lingered, tied to an inadequate joy, missing the turns of fate, missing life's goal. A scene was planned for all her numberless moods, where each could be the law and way of life, but none could offer a pure felicity. Felicity here is simply bliss, a pure great happiness or bliss. So we'll go to the next page and see what else is happening here in this fall of life. Only a flickering zest they left behind. Now, I have to look a little more closely here because, you see, a zest is a keen relish. It is something that's actually agreeable, that one enjoys. And so, but here again, it's only a flickering and barely illuminated, unsteady or wavering zest they left behind, or the fierce lust that brings a dead fatigue. Amid her swift, untold variety, something remained dissatisfied, ever the same, and in the new saw only a face of the old. For every hour repeated all the rest, and every change prolonged the same unease. You can see that this particular canto of the traveler of the worlds, he's seeing this glory and this fall of life. And it's quite a fall, isn't it? When every hour repeated all the rest, and every change prolonged the same unease. A spirit of herself and aim unsure, tired soon of too much joy and happiness, she needs the spur of pleasure and of pain, and the native taste of suffering and unrest. She strains for an end that never can she win. A perverse savor haunts her thirsting lips. Of course, perverse, we know what perverse is. Some wrongly self-willed obstinacy. Savor is a specific taste that one derives or receives pleasure from, I would say, enjoyment. So she has this perverse, this twisted savor that haunts her thirsting lips. To haunt something is to, I guess inhabited in this case. It would be not the haunting that we think about in ghosts or supernatural things, but it just haunts her. It recurs persistently. For the grief she weeps, which came from her own choice. For the pleasure yearns, that racked with wounds her breast. To rack is to inflict torment and anguish on. So she wants that pleasure that even torments or creates anguish, even with and wounds her breast. Aspiring to heaven, she turns her steps towards hell. Chance she has chosen, and danger for playfellows. Fate's dreadful swing she has taken for cradle and seat. What an incredible line. Yet pure and bright from the timeless was her birth. And so we see that this is not something malignant in any way at all, because the next lines tell us this. A lost world rapture lingers in her eyes. Her moods are faces of the infinite. Beauty and happiness are her native right, and endless bliss is her eternal home. This now revealed its antique face of joy, a sudden disclosure to the heart of grief, tempting it to endure and long and hope. Even in changing worlds, bereft of peace, bereft is deprived of something, in an air racked with sorrow and with fear. See, we had racked before and now racked again. Sri Aurobindo is impressing this on us. And while his feet trod on a soil unsafe, he saw the image of a happier state. In an architecture of hieratic space, circling and mounting towards creation's tops, at a blue height which never was too high for warm communion between body and soul, as far as heaven, as near as thought and hope. I think I'll give it up for today, except that that seems to be a comma after hope. So I have to go one more page to 119. And we have here, glimmered the kingdom of a griefless life. And there's so much to go through next week that if you'll excuse me, I hope to have full internet next week. I can't even see the people. I can only see Vladimir, which is enough, but but I can't see anyone else. So
Thank you,
I
Narad, for
thank you
your
all
many
for
help
attending.
through the phone. Yes, thank you.
Namaste, all.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Much.